When I was a little kid, I had a very dark period of time. I remember I was still in junior school that I felt my life pretty much end there. It was how dark it was. And it was at that moment that I found Jesus, and I totally, the presence of Jesus, the fact that I know that I can have freedom with all the brokenness that I had completely changed my trajectory and my hope and in my life. That was beautiful, yeah.
And Philip, going back to that time, was it somebody who told you about Jesus, or how did you know about, were you raised in the church? How did you know about who Jesus was?
That's actually I have an interesting background. I've been going to church all my life. My grandmother took me to the church, but because I was not living with my parents and they were in China when I was in Hong Kong, I kind of don't know how to do life with, I don't know how to handle it. But God gave me, I can actually name about 12 people in my life journey that pour in my life, spend time and be my mentor in different part of my life and help me to become who I am today.
Yes. And so you gave your heart to Jesus, you said in middle school. How old would you have been?
I was about 13 years old.
Okay.
But that journey, probably ups and downs for about 3-4 years until I finally 100% committed and never got back.
And you think about that before and after, before we know Jesus, and then the hope and the belonging we feel after we encounter him. How did your heart change?
Oh, a big change, because I mentioned that I felt my life was done at the time. There was no hope. It was complete darkness, and I trying to find a way to survive. But after that, I felt there's so much hope. The world is open, and so much opportunity. I can serve God. I can have freedom, and I have hope. There was a major difference.
It's like a miracle of the heart, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Well, Philip, of course, so many of us, once we come to know who Jesus is, we start to ask God, what do you want me to do with my life? And you were a very talented graphic designer, a very visual person. I can tell by your lovely glasses and your great jacket. But in your early 20s, you were starting to ask God, what do you want me to do with my life? What is my calling? What did you hear him say to you?
Well, that calling came in a different part of the journey. When I was in high school, I actually didn't do well with my school, but except I do a lot of drawing. And it was through a pastor introduced me to the concept of design. So it was in a period of 1 year or so that I felt very clear in my young life, God called me to a designer. And I don't quite understand what that means, but I just felt very called that he wanted me to be a designer.
And as your life unfolded, you started to realize God doesn't just want you to design visual items, but a designer of many things.
Yeah, the concept of design, from very basic graphic, how it looked, what the color, form, and shape and impact, it become a principle and mindset that turn from design to design thinking, to innovations, to look at the world and say there are so much brokenness and challenges. What can we do to apply the design thinking to make changes to make the world better?
And here's where that socially redemptive entrepreneurship starts to come forward in you. There was no greater moment that it started to peek through than in 2008.
Yes.
You and your wife were out together and you met a young man and you went for a walk with him. Tell us more about what happened.
Well, we met a young man. He was 27 years old at the time. And it was shocking to us that he had been homeless for more than 20 years. And he just became a Christian. So my wife and I journeyed with him for quite some time and helping him. And he got better, but I felt, wow, it took a whole village to help a person. Then I asked myself, what can we do to help people or to stop people going down that path? what can we do to help them to change their life earlier than to the desperate moment.
And this became the seedbed for a couple of entrepreneurial ventures. One we'll start with that I know about is the coffee business that had an incredible social impact. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, we actually trying to figure out what can we do to create a program to stop people going down that path, but in the same time, how can we fund it? So it was a partnership with some nonprofit organization that we found a coffee company business and using that to fund a project. The goal for that project is to deal with the readiness of the people who come out from prisons to get jobs. Okay. They're very difficult to get jobs. In fact, the record at the time, the employment rate for those folks were 4.9%. You can imagine 95% of them were not able to get jobs. And a lot of them end up homeless and on the streets. So a simple thought is we can actually help them to have jobs. It will change them. It will change the family. It will actually make the society safer. So we figure out that we can, using a principle of readiness, to help them ready and also help the society ready and match both of them together. We did some good results. We moved from 4.9% of the employment rate for people who came through our program. The success rate was 64% at the time.
Ensuring that those who have been incarcerated are able to have jobs. 64% of those who came through the program. That's incredible.
Yes, yes.
And it is life-changing, and it does stop that downward trajectory that many can experience after living through being incarcerated.
Absolutely.
And now this VHS business also was something else that you did. Tell us a bit about that.
It was after that, and we kind of have that kind of mindset, what else we can do? A group of friends that discovered that there are things that is not being recycled that was a big problem that we don't talk about. Something that we purchased $2.26 billion in 5 years in Ontario alone, and all of them mostly plastics, and they all go into the landfill. That's the VHS tapes. And learning that and figure out that there is nobody recycling them in the world, and we would just wonder why. The main reason is it doesn't make business sense for people. So what we've tried to do is we define the success of recycling. So it's not only about the financial gain as well, but we combine that. We have a group of people who cannot find jobs. So what about we offer them jobs and using that to support them, but in the same time doing recycling and taking a big group chunk of things that is resource that we can have and stop them become a garbage.
And the people that were having a hard time finding jobs, what was that group of people?
Well, there are many people who are on a journey of recovery of the mental health.
Yeah.
People who has a physical challenge, refugees who need the first opportunity, and of course, the 95% of the people that I talked about that were not able to find a job because they had a criminal record or police record.
It's incredible because you think about even with the VHS entrepreneurial venture you were doing, here you are stewarding God's creation better, but you're also stewarding community and society better in a new way that's so redemptive. And that speaks to the heart of the work that you're doing at Tyndale. You know, you founded this program, was it in 2021?
Yes.
And so the Tyndale Center for Redemptive Entrepreneurship is having a very big impact. I'm sure many of our viewers are curious about it, but your life experiences speak to the heart of the program. Tell us a bit more about it and what you're really focused on teaching people who come to the program.
Yeah, in my journey, I realized a few things. One is I find that Jesus' footprint has been very everywhere in everything that I was doing during those years in social enterprise. But unfortunately, that we don't know how that works and how do we integrate faith. And I experienced something that I felt that everybody, all Christian entrepreneurs are experiencing right now. There are three things. I can't quite talk about what I do because I don't have a language. Secondly, that I felt very lonely when I was doing that because I'm a church leader, but all the prayer and support and caring kind of stopped around the door of the church. That everywhere else that I'm doing God's work, and I felt alone. And I also feel that, I'm curious, like, who are the other people actually serving God in that way? And I really want to know the story. And I felt that I was not able to find the story at the time. So that was my experience. And I felt that somebody need to do something to bridge that gap and bring connection with faith, the calling, and the business that they're doing. And I felt that is a big untapped resources that we haven't activated yet.
And Philip, I know you're very passionate about the work you're doing, and so many people are so thankful for the way you're trailblazing forward and helping to lift up entrepreneurs across Canada who follow Jesus, who can take such an active part in God's redemptive work across this nation. Something else that you also do is you're very involved in Lausanne, so that global movement, and you were in South Korea just last year with 5,000 other followers of Jesus, praying and seeing what God is doing in the global church. Part of the realizations at Lausanne, and you've shared this with me, was that, of the 1% of people called into vocational ministry, so we're talking our pastors and people who are called to work in the church or even here at a place like Crossroads, there are 99% of people who are called to the marketplace, and that's where they are actually working. And so how do we mobilize them to share the light of Christ with others around them in their realms? And so my question for you and for those who are watching now who are Canadian entrepreneurs and business people or Canadians supporting small businesses, how do you believe God wants to use those 99% of people in Canada called to the marketplace to build his kingdom purposes here in Canada?
Wow. There are so many ways that we can do. Traditionally, I remember I grew up kind of really trying to find way to define our culture, what is sacred, what is secular, what is good, what is not good. And our posture was really complaining and defining so that we are not learning something bad, but rather doing something good. The question for us is the culture that we live today is really forming and creating through mostly businesses, mostly entrepreneurs. And why are we only looking at these culture around us from the back? Why can't we go forefront and create culture that honor God, that align with God's missions, and be the voice in the forefront rather than complaining on the back? So I think entrepreneurs that we have in Canada, so many of them, that we should invite them to support them, activate them, including all the business leaders and workers in Canada. There's so many of them that if we taking that posture to create new culture, to be the light of this world, which is what we call, then the world will change.
Philip, that's such an encouragement for those watching right now in Canada who are involved in business and want to know how they can move forward with God's purposes in our nation. You've got this wonderful card and you've shown it to me earlier.
Yes.
And it really summarizes the heart of what you guys are doing. Will you read it for us?
Absolutely. When we were talking about redemptive entrepreneurship, we recognize that we need to have a very clear way to define that. So this is actually how we define it. So redemptive entrepreneurship is building profitable businesses that serve the community, renew culture, and bless people, restoring society to its intended state. That's the focus.
Philip, that is so good, and we're so thankful for the work you are doing here in Ontario and across Canada, across the world, actually. Philip, thank you for being with us today.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.